So what's up, mofos? Welcome back. We're out on a little bimble today, a little bit of fun. I've just been down to Doble's Motorcycles in Coulsdon. We haven't done that for a while. Well, I've been down there, obviously, to drink coffee and hang out, but we haven't taken a bike out for a while. So today, we're out on this little beauty, the little GB350S. Single cylinder, retro kind of vibe. This little thing here is £4,000. That's right, you heard me correct, £4,000. So what we're going to do is take it out for a little bit of a spin on these little country lanes, have some fun and see what it's like. I ride these bikes on roads that I like to ride. This is not a review channel, as you know, but I do like to do first impression reviews for you guys when I get the opportunity. And this is another one. We're on board the little Honda GB350S. Got to be a little bit careful. We had a storm last night and this bike's only done 5 miles, so brand new tyres, brand new engine. I'm not going to rag the life out of it, but that does not mean we can't have fun. You don't have to rag the life out of a bike to have fun. Sometimes bikes are designed to plod around the country lanes, and I get the feeling this is one of those bikes. Right, as per usual, let's get the formalities out of the way. Thank you very much to Doble's Motorcycles down in Coulsdon. I shall leave a link to their website downstairs in the descriptions box, so go and check them out. I shall also leave a link for the full specifications for this and all the accessories and stuff like that down there as well. So go and check that out. A little bit about myself for those of you that don't know. 6'2", wide in the shoulders, long in the legs. I haven't said that for a while. I think this is the first review kind of thing I've done in about a year. I just kind of laid off of them. Haven't fancied doing them, but I'm now back into the swing of it. It's 2025, let's have some fun. I'm about 17 stone at the moment, and as per usual, looking to lose some weight. That seems to be the standard on this channel. At some point, what we would do is pull over and have a walk round of this bike, and I'll go a little bit more in depth, show you some of the ins and outs of it, change cameras so you got a better view, and lay the specifications over the top so you know all about this bike. I have not even read up on this bike. All I know is this is a Honda, it's a 350, it's a single cylinder, and it's £4,000. That's all I know. Anyway, let's roll the titles and we'll crack on with the ride. Before we get into the walkabout, what are we, Australian? The walk around of the bike, I just want to tell you a little bit about the ergonomics, how I'm getting on with it. I've been on it for about 5-10 minutes now. As you know, these are first impression review videos. They are not reviews. You need to have a bike for 2-3 weeks, ride it constantly for a proper review on a video. Anyone that says they're giving you a review and are on it for 10 minutes, they're lying through their backsides. It's a first impression. And remember, these are just my opinions. You don't have to share them. It's not the law. So, right, ergonomics, let's get on with it. The seat to bars to peg ratio. A little bit small for me, but you would expect that. As I said before, 6'2", and I've got pretty long thigh bones. It's not too uncomfortable though. I do ride a CL500. I have one of those in the garage, so I'm quite used to being on a bike that's a little bit too small for me. To be honest, about 90% of bikes are too small for me, so that's my fault, not the bike. Well, not my fault, it's my genetics fault, it's not the bike's fault. That's what I'm trying to say. So I don't mind it. I can imagine on a long trip it'll make my legs ache a little bit. The bar width I quite like. I would like it slightly wider, but again, that's me. I like ADV bikes and off-road bikes, so I'm used to having my hands out here a little bit more, and I find the wider the bar, the easier it is to just throw about. But not a deal breaker. The seat is quite firm. There's a little bit of wiggle room, but it is quite firm. I'm not sure if it's an aftermarket seat. We'll have a look when we have the walk round. But again, it's a brand new bike. I'm the first one to sit on it, so after this my 17 stone should bed it in a little bit. But again, with most bikes, I find the seats not that great when I buy the bike, but they do bed in. These are the types of roads I think this bike is designed for. These little back lane country roads. Oh, Jesus Christ. Excuse me. There was a lot of bumps in that little section there. Suspension did a pretty good job of soaking it up, but you can tell it's not the most expensive suspension. On a quick glance round before I rode the bike, I noticed it's got a 19-inch front wheel. I don't mind that at all. Makes it slightly slower steering than the 17, but it kind of suits these retro bikes. I've got a 19 on my CL500 and I love it. I like the lazy nature of it. We were talking about the ergonomics, but I got sidetracked, sorry. I'm doing the whole of this lane in third gear. This engine is such a chugger. A big 350 single cylinder. As I said, it does feel pretty restricted. This bike has got a very lazy nature. So far I'm quite liking it. Right, we're coming up to Box Hill, so what I will do is I'll take it into the car park. We'll have a walk round in there and we'll have a little look round before it gets too dirty, because I have the feeling this bike is going to be absolutely filthy by the time I take it back. Let's take it in here, duck. I always get paranoid, I'm going to knock myself out. And we do a little bit of a walk round. That'll do. So here it is, the Honda GB350S in this lovely kind of mud grey colour. Not sure that's what they call it. I've done, as I said, no research on this whatsoever. What I'm going to do is do a little walk round of the bike with a bit of music, lay all the specifications over the top there, and then when I come back I'm just going to change cameras and then we're going to go a little bit more in depth, having a little look at it. I won't give you any specs. I can read what's on the tyres, size of the wheels, stuff like that, but the rest of it, brake horsepower, seat height, all of that will be overlaid, so don't worry about that. You're going to get the proper information, not my normal rubbish. And then we'll have a little look at things like the lights. We'll have a listen to this little 350 engine. It sounds gorgeous even with this kind of meh exhaust. I'm going to say that because I don't like the matte black, but you're going to change that. I can guarantee if you get one of these bikes you'll change that and free up the sound and probably free up a little bit of that engine as well, make it a little bit more peppy, because a big single with an exhaust, I don't know, does something to me, makes my loins tingle a little bit. That little brap, £4 for that. Right, so let's start at the front and then work our way back. You've got a 19-inch front wheel. It's a 190/19 on the front. It's a single disc. It is ABS. Nissan calipers there. And normal forks with gaiters on. I do like that. I like the retro look with the gaiters. And then if we move up, you've got LED indicators, which are standard across pretty much the whole Honda range. I've got them on my CRF, my CL, my NX. I think they might be even on the Super Cub, who knows. Anyway, we'll move on. You've got an LED headlight. I shall turn the lights on in a minute and show you those. We've got this little aftermarket headlight cowl, which is quite nice with a screen. I like the brace as well. I'm not sure if that's standard or aftermarket, but I like the little mudguard brace here. If we work our way down, it's got engine bars on and these fog lights. They are aftermarket. I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll go through the aftermarket bits and then we get back to going around the bike. So fog lights, engine bars, this cowl here, aftermarket, the tank pads aftermarket, the seat cowls aftermarket, and what else have we got? Heated grips. Now I've been told to tell you guys that you can't have heated grips and fog lights all at the same time. This has got both, but only the fog lights work, and that's because the loom on it will only take one electric power source plugging in. So you can have both, I suppose, if you're fancy with the wires, but standard you can only have the fog lights or the heated grips. My suggestion would be get the fog lights, because you can always get heated gloves. You can't get that the other way around. You can't just buy heated grips and then get headlights for your toes. I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, let's crack on with the bike. Right, it's a big single cylinder 350. Looks gorgeous, quite retro, isn't it? I love the look of it. I'm not a fan of chrome, but it works a little bit on this bike. I mean, it doesn't work when you get back there to the matte black exhaust, but we shall leave that for now, because I know if I had this bike I would change that exhaust. So you've got all the fuel injection and stuff behind there. Down here we've got standard Honda foot peg with a little hero blob on the back, a little grippy kind of brake lever. Back brake's all right, does a job, slows you down. Right on the back again, ABS, single caliper Nissan as you would expect, with a kind of retro adjuster on the back there. Not sure if I like that, but you get what you're given. You got twin shocks, and this, I'm gonna leave the judgment on this exhaust because I don't like it. Sounds okay, I don't like the look of it because it is matte black and I don't know, just doesn't look that nice. But as I said, if I was to buy one of these I'd change that anyway, so it's not the end of the world. Back here you've got this massive rear mudguard with the light assembly on the back. Could you imagine just cutting that off? Let me see if I can do it with my thumb. I mean, how much better does that look already? Just cutting that off than that. And then around this side, it's chain driven, another shock. Oh, pillion pegs, just your standard Honda ones, a little bit grippy, not too bad. Another rubber mounted foot peg there, as you would expect. It'd be weird if you had two different ones on either side, wouldn't it? Gear shift there, it's a 5-speed. This one comes with side stand and it's got a centre stand. I'm not sure if the centre stand is standard. You'll have to check on the website. Once again, I shall leave all the specifications downstairs for you to check out. There's not really a lot you can go through on this bike. It's pretty basic, but I think it's a really, really good looking bike. Let me know down in the comment section what you think. It's got little bungee hook points here as well, which is quite handy. So if you haven't got the seat cowl, you could just bungee a bag to the back, have a weekend away on a summer's day. So I think that's what this bike's about, a nice summer's day. Not a day like today, where it's greasy and horrible, but at least it's not raining, so we can't have it all, can we? But I like it. Let me show you the headlights. So on the front you've got the LED headlight and you've got the indicators that stay on as running lights and flash when you use them. So you've got the fog lights on the bottom there. I mean, they're not the brightest, but they do the job. But yeah, the lights, they're pretty good. Obviously I haven't tested them at night. That's a true test of a light, isn't it? Whether you can see at night. So I would assume they're okay, especially with the fog lights, because I've got lesser bikes than this from Honda and the headlights always seem to be pretty good. Round the back, your standard LED brake light and normal light, and then your LED indicators. There you go. That was exciting, wasn't it? Let's have a quick look at the dash. So there we go, simple dash. You've got your speedo. Let's turn the indicators off, and you've got a little LCD kind of thing down here. Let me have a mess with it. Got a button on top, so you've got trips, miles per gallon, average miles per gallon. We're averaging 66.2 miles to the gallon. Range, oh, I like that, it's got a range on it. All bikes should have a range. So it's got a couple of bars left and it's got 116 mile range, so not bad at all. Battery, and then total mileage. It's also got your gear indicator down here, you've got your fuel there, you've got your clock there, and that's about it. Your idiot lights around the end. Traction control, I didn't realise it had traction control, which might be handy. You've got ABS, you've got an eco light on this as well, you've got your engine management light, neutral, full beams, and indicator lights and stuff like that, and other lights and your normal stuff around the outside. It has got an eco light that comes on, you'll see it while we're going along, that's pretty annoying. It just means you're doing optimum miles per gallon. On the left hand side you've got your clutch, push to pass, and your full beams, you've got your hooter, and you've got your indicators, and you've got this massive fog light switch. You're not going to miss that, are you? Then over the other side you've got your start button, you've got your hazard lights, obviously front brake, and then your throttle. That's about it. Nice and simple. I quite like a simple bike every now and again. I've had some complicated ones, but every now and again I like a little bit of simplicity. Right, I almost forgot, as I do every time I do this, to give you a little listen to the exhaust. Now this is only through the microphone in the cheek pad going through the GoPro. But it does sound quite nice. It really is lazy revving. It's a lazy revving bike. I don't like the fact that it hasn't got a rev counter. I like a rev counter on bikes. I mean, you do get used to bikes with no rev counter, but I just like a rev counter. I like to know what's going on. Right, so let's crack on and ride this a little bit more. Right, fourth gear, 50 miles an hour. It feels so lazy. It's just plodding. If I open her up, watch the throttle and watch the speed increase, not really a lot happens. You'll have to drop down on the gearbox to get that shove. As you can see, that eco light there, so that's full maximum MPGs. I don't know how to explain that. It's at its most frugal. There you go, we'll go with that. I've got to say, this is probably one of the most chilled out bikes I've ever ridden. Some people would call that boring. Not me, it's chilled. It's one of those engines that's quite deceptive. You feel like you're not doing anything, you look down, you're already doing 40. So it's obviously got a little bit of torque low down, but it hasn't got torque as in you feel it in your shoulders trying to remove your arms from the body. So sitting at 30, third gear, feels well balanced. As you would expect being a Honda, it's very easy to ride. I don't think I've got on a Honda yet. I thought, this is difficult. It's not, it's a nice place to be. It's very, what's the word? I was going to say awe-inspiring, but that's completely wrong. Confidence-inspiring, that's what I was going for. 350 singles, never going to be awe-inspiring, is it? As I say, very well balanced, easy to keep your feet on the pegs virtually at 0 miles an hour. It reminds me a lot of the CL500. It's got that same sort of balance. Where are we now? Stand still. It is astonishingly well balanced. Right, I think I've said well balanced enough now. Let's move on. There we go, a little bit of filtering. Now what I would suggest is, and I'm no expert on this, but I think Honda with this bike are going after a slice of that pie that Royal Enfield have. A little bit like Triumph has come out with the 400 Scrambler and the 400 road bike thing. I don't know if it's called a roadster, whatever it's called, the 400. I think Honda have realised that smaller capacity bikes are getting more and more popular. And in England, I can see why. I like a small capacity bike. I've got 4 of them at the moment. And that's because I like to ride roads like this. I like to get out into the UK countryside, even on crappy days, and just plod around and ride. As I said before, this little bike is £4,000. That's not a lot more than my Super Cub was. If you do want to hustle it a little bit, you've really got to work the engine. As I've said, I think quite a few times, it's got a very lazy nature. I've got to say, this bike on these roads, even on this crappy winter's day, makes sense. It really does make sense. The suspension seems a little firm. I've ridden a lot of small capacity bikes, and the suspension a lot of the time is very saggy and soft, whereas on this it feels quite firm, which is a good thing. I like the way it's handling these bumpy little country lanes. We're not going flat out, we're well within speed limits, and that's kind of this vibe for this bike. It's not a flat out bike. There are plenty of bikes out there that will rev hard and go fast and be cutting edge into the corners. This is a purely chilled out experience, but I would suggest don't buy this bike if you want to get your heart racing. Get this bike if you're pretty chilled. Now, I do feel a little bit big on it, but as I've said before, I'm used to feeling big on bikes. I ride around on a bloody Super Cub. I'm used to looking like a clown on a tricycle. I like the dash, it's nice and simple. I like the retro style old analog dash with a little bit of LCD in the corner. It's nice and simple to read. It's not a lot going on, not a lot of information. It's all you need on there, and it suits this bike. I think if you went digital on this, it would ruin it. My CL500's got an LCD dash and I don't like it at all. I would much prefer this dash on the CL500 as well. Mirrors, they're okay. This retro style, cheap and cheerful. You can see behind you, so they basically do the job. You can see my elbows. They're lovely sexy elbows, so I don't mind that, but you can see behind you. Because I'm wide in the shoulders, I have got to shuffle around a little bit to look behind clearly, but it's not the end of the world. When you do push on roads like this with this suspension, you'll find it skips a little bit where it's a little bit harsh. But as I said before, this is not that type of bike. I'm just saying, when I pushed on a little bit, obviously off camera, don't want to incriminate myself, then yeah, you can feel the limits of the suspension. Right, the brakes on this, they're okay, they work. The front feels a little bit wooden, but again, it's a brand new bike, so they will bed in. It's got no adjustability for span, but I'm pretty sure you can probably get an aftermarket one for that. The back, if I just use that, yeah, it's okay. Again, a little bit lacking in feel, but I don't really expect anything spectacular from a bike in this price point, to be honest. They will bed in and you will get used to them. Do you know what? This bike handles okay. It's got quite a nice smooth balance to it. If you get the corners right, you get that flow right, it really glides around quite nicely. Right, off camera I did hustle it a little bit. I'm not saying illegally, I'm just saying I hustled it a little bit. And when you really push it, it doesn't feel as fun, if that makes sense. Like those guys. It feels better when you're just flowing, when it's at its smoothest rev range. So let's have a little chat about this engine. It's a weird one for me, this engine. I'm not sure. I'm on the fence with it. And the reason I'm on the fence is I kind of love it and I kind of hate it all at the same time. But I don't think it's the engine's fault. I'll explain myself. Bear with me. I love the lazy nature of it. I love the fact that it just ticks along and it's very, very understressed, and I mean very understressed. I like the low down torque it's got. I wouldn't call it shove, but it's got a bit of low down torque, and that's kind of nice, and it suits this bike, and it makes you ride very lazily, and I like that. I quite like that. However, I feel that this engine is completely strangled. It feels like it's restricted beyond belief. Right, apologies about that. The battery of the GoPro just ran out halfway through a sentence. I Obviously I was that boring coming up that hill talking about engines that the GoPro decided to go to sleep as well. So sorry about that if I am boring you, but yeah, it's a bit filthy at the moment. Sorry about that. I'm not apologising to you guys, I'm apologising to Dobles because I'm taking it back now. But yeah, this engine, I'm going to say it when I'm off the bike. I kind of love it, kind of hate it. I get it. It's a lazy engine, it's a plodder. But it's so bloody restricted. I think if you unrestrict it, put an exhaust on it or do things with it, whatever you got to do to free up its power, this bike could be fun. Because at the moment, it's not a fun bike. And I don't mean it's not fun to ride, I mean it's not exhilarating. It's a plodder, it's a cruiser, it's a get on a nice sunny, you can say Sunday morning, but you can do it any day of the week. Get on in the morning, go out, 50-mile country lane ride, grab yourself a coffee, chill out, put your feet up, and enjoy the English countryside. That's what this bike's good for. And I think it's bloody brilliant for that. But that engine, I know it could be so much better. There's nothing wrong with it, and I understand it, but there's just that bit I need to just go, oh. But I wouldn't buy this bike if I wanted to go fast. I'd buy something that was a bit faster. If you're going to buy this bike, I'll suggest go out and test ride it, but ride it how it's supposed to be ridden, just chilled out, relaxing. If you do that, and that's the kind of bike you like, this bike is brilliant. And for £4,000 for that. That's the bit that's amazing me. Why am I spending all this money on bikes when they can build something like this for 4,000? Right, let's take it back to the shop and we'll get going again, and I'll give you my conclusion. Would I buy one or would I not? So in conclusion, would I buy this bike? Probably not. And that's nothing wrong with the bike, it's just not exciting enough for me. And I've got a CL500 in the garage. Out of this and the CL500, the CL500 is a lot better. It's got a lot more poke. I prefer the engine, it's not as strangled, it's much nicer out on the roads. But if I only had £4,000 and I didn't have a CL500, I might consider one of these. So we put it in the consider bracket, but I would like to ride one with an aftermarket exhaust where it's a little bit freer on that engine. Because I have a feeling if you free it up a little bit, it might be a little bit more fun. At the moment, let's just call it relaxed and lazy. I don't want to go down the boring route. I'm just going to say it's a little bit relaxed and chilled out. So if you're that kind of person, it'll be brilliant for you. I'd always say go and test ride one. You'll know for yourself whether you like it or not. These YouTube videos just give you an idea, and they're just the opinion of the person that rides them. So my opinion is it's a little bit dull, but I understand why it is a little bit dull. I get it, I understand it, and I quite embrace it for that, if that makes sense. I quite love it for its unapologetic nature of being just a plodder and a lazy bike for a sunny afternoon. I like that. Sometimes something comes along and it's a little bit of a bargain, and that's what this is, the GB350S. A bit like me, a little bit slow, a little bit dull, but once you get to know it, it's all right. And on that note, I'm going to end the video here. Thank you very much for watching, really appreciate it. Thank you very much to Dobles Motorcycles for giving me the drop on this bike. If you are down there, go and see Ian. He does like a hug, he's the general manager. He will answer all your questions and everything like that on this bike or any other Honda. So that just leaves me to say, once again, thank you very much for watching, really appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe, to like, to share, to do all those things that you need to do. Also hit that notification bell so you guys can get the drop on these videos. I shall see you on the next one. You know I love you all. Stay safe. Fish out.
Get all your bags, get out my house. I don't want your stuff around. I never did you wrong, but you did me wrong. So go ahead, get gone. Get all your bags, get out my house. I don't want your stuff around. I never did you wrong, but you did me wrong. So go ahead and get gone.